Bernardini lead the way. Mass Devils Blue in pit lane. Here comes Mass Devil Blue in pit lane. Lithium Motorsports down pit lane. Project Dynamic Green back out on track in the 6th position. Project Dynamic Green back up to the 3rd position again, waiting on pit stops by the Magic Row 55 camp. And there it is right now. Seems like we have a little bit of an inconsistency here as far as the timing is at, because it says the Magic Arrow camp's several laps down. I don't think that's the case. Mass Devils Red now at the front of the field. They've yet to make a pit stop in this race. All right, looks like the timing issue between Thomas and the issue with there is being corrected, because Thomas is now back out in 2nd place ahead of Project Dynamic Green, importantly, in 2nd place. We got that fixed and coordinated. That was a panic. I was like, did Thomas get taken out in a crash? That was not the case. He came up pit lane, and apparently it threw off the timing on our end. I'm not sure if it looked that way on live timing for everybody else, but for us, it was a frightening incident there. But right now, so far, so good. And he's opened up a little bit more of a gap there over Wesley Caspers, who tried to make an undercut work, and it overall has not. But now Caspers has really good leeway now, because here's Thomas is you could arguably say his kryptonite here, with Thomas having to go through lap traffic here. And Caspers overall, I think, has been a lot more fortunate with the lap traffic than Thomas has been, all things considered, as they try to work through the leading GT3 Pro cars. Thomas looks to the inside of Bernardini, cuts it close but makes it stick. Casper's taking it a little bit more timid here, as this battle once again resumes, being for the race lead upon the pit stop of the 7. The Magic Devils Red machine has come down pit lane and made its pit stop, I believe. So once again, pursuit for the race lead ongoing here. A little bit further down the order, I have to look at really F Racing and Nick's Racing. Racing pretty well nose to tail right now, also going through lap traffic. And we're seeing already some driver changes. Miguel Apollo back in the number 99 for F Racing. Driver changes have already started taking place because of that red flag delay. It's thrown a lot of the driver stints off in this race so far. So a lot of teams having to make driver changes at different times now, based on different driver availability now across what has become an 11-hour window. And Apollo almost got into one of the SR Technic cars in the turn 2. Alessio Bernardini leads the way over Alice Garcia. A issue has had to have occurred with the 264 machine on pit lane. There's no indication that it's happened on track. But the 264 no longer in the lead of this race and no longer close to it. Now we're into this race in change. About an hour and 20 minutes into this race now, all things considered. Bernardini leads the way, but Alex Garcia showing that he's got a lot of pace in that 221. That Mercedes looking really good on home soil. Ferrari, Mercedes, BMW, top three. Garcia looks to the race lead in GT3 Pro. Keeps it nice and tidy. Undercut did not work out for Bernardini. Garcia now leads in GT3 Pro. Really good effort by Alex Garcia. Getting to the front of the field here. Garcia out in front at the moment. But again, not an overfight by any stretch of the imagination right now. Likewise, not an overfight in GTP. Battle still with very well within a second between Thomas and Kaspers at the front of the field. Kasper's just there in that corner, gained a 10th. This has been absolutely ecstatic and wild so far. Some of the GT3 cars now as the race leader. Dynamic Green's going to catch up at a really good spot as well. Got on the outside here. On to the front straightaway. That slow down there for Kaspers is going to give Thomas a little bit more leeway here. But overall, he's been able to reel that gap back in every single time it's been in his way. Front of the field, Peaky drivers lead the way. Saying Magic Arrows is not in the lead of this race. I would have to beg to disagree on that one. There we go. And Thomas is back in the race lead there. Got that corrected there. Alex Garcia is still battling there for the race lead, though. GT3 has been pretty well hot and heavy the entire race. Not so much in GT3 AM. Lemmy Mishk pretty well out on an island once again. Shining star in Watkins Glen. Didn't really get to see Mishk at Interlagos, but back again. Looking the new wonders for Virtual Insanity Racing. We're in another 359 car. Started from pole position and has not left. There's not a lot of cars in this field that has been able to hold position quite like that Virtual Insanity Racing machine. Some would argue that car should be in pro. But Lemmy Mishk doing a phenomenal job right now with that car in hand. Still a battle at the front of the field in GT3 Pro. pit stops happening in the GT3 class. A lot of the GT3 pros starting to come in here. Might be seeing our first GT3 pit stops of the race coming in here shortly. And there, speak of the devil, and it shall appear, 07 Racing and Bernardini come down pit lane. Garcia stays out, and now a lot less pressure, but now you have to cover that off. Alex Garcia leads the way in GT3. A little bit further on in this battle between Future Racing Team Pro and XPD Emerald Racing for 5th position in the class. Baggerman holding on to that top 5. But the number 5, who had the server drive-through earlier in this race for avoidable contact, back up and in contention here. Nick Baggerman holding on to the position right now over the 5. New parties come up here for car number 49, IPM Gold. One of the leading Acuras, the leading Acura right now in GTP. Drive through for avoidable contact. Contact with the 239, the Rukinor racing car. So the 49 IPM Gold machine will have to come down pit lane and serve a drive through. There is the Peaky Drivers 221. Now it looks like Alex Garcia's hold on to the race lead firmly in GT3 Pro. Garcia stays out. Oh, in trouble, huge trouble. Garcia in trouble. Well, along with a couple of GTPs, I think it was the Carbano Esports Black Machine, Alex Gonzalez in trouble. As well as another GTP that's going to give the lead to Carbano Esports JD. But 2 GTPs with significant damage already in this race. And it's Gonzalo Narciso, who I think was in the IPM Gold machine. He was the IPM Gold machine. So that car that already had a drive-through will now be in pit lane for extensive repairs after contact with what was the race leader in GT3 with Alex Garcia. And Garcia also had to tow back to pit lane. This is the aftermath of the crash that happened on the exit of turn 3. Full tires for Garcia. Huge trouble. Just loses it under acceleration. Almost up and over goes the 49 of Narciso. Carbano Esports Black gets a piece of that as well, trying to check up for it. And obviously the damage too much there for both Garcia and for Narciso. They have both towed back to pit lane, and their races have gone extraordinarily poorly all of a sudden, almost an hour and a half into this race. At the front of the field remains Wesley Caspers, who took over the lead from the 55 and has not looked back. 7.9, almost 8 seconds the gap now between the top two in GTP. Chaos top to bottom at the 90-minute mark. Wesley Caspers leads the way and is opening up more and more of a gap. Norbert Thomas trying to find a way through. Sitting right now in the second position. Mass Devils Red, the pole sitter, Sergio Bora, in third. Then Rider Engineering Airsport staying stationary in fourth with Patrick Silvassi behind the wheel. Mass Devils Blue, Eloy Caballero behind the wheel. Then it's the Magic Arrow 56 of Dominic Fiquete. And you have this battle for the 7th position. Hernandez chasing down Baggerman, battling for 7th place. Nix Esports not far behind. Albert Blanc has to make a pit stop still, but unofficially sitting right now in the 9th position. Had to make a pit stop earlier in this race after suffering damage. So he is off sequence well and fully in this race. But again, showing where he could be right now if things shake out a little bit differently throughout the rest of this race as things go. Go Esports sitting down in 13th place, trying to chase down Lithium Motorsports and work around. That is the Euromasters Esports machine. Carbono Esports Black saw the damage on that car. Alex Gonzalez behind the wheel. And now he is rolling once again here for Carbono Esports Black. IPM Gold in pit lane. A lot of work for them to do. Same with the 221 Peaky drivers. They've made the driver change for when they're ready to go back out. Cita Ferreira will sit in that car and get ready to go. But it is not where they want it to be so far. Alberto Moreno leads this race for Cabana Esports JD. And he's got a 7.3 second gap to 07 Racing, who have their mirror full right now of Enosis Esports. The driver change took place for 07 Esports. Fabio Ponta in the wheel of that car now. The battle for second place in GT3 as things stand right now. Miguel Santos will crank it up here and listen on board with this battle for the second place between a couple of Ferraris. My, how tides have turned here in Hockenheim. Watching right now with Miguel Santos. Third place right now in GT3 Pro. Trying to chase down this driver right here, Fabio Ponta. Second place right now. Carbono Esports JD have found themselves in the most fortunate position. Alberto Moreno leading the way in GT3 Pro after issues for both the Euromaster Esports car and Peaky drivers. Both of them now very well behind the 8-ball for the remainder of this 10-hour event. Front of the field, however, it is all clear sailing right now for Wesley Casper's pole position belonged to Sergio Bora. But the 8 hours of Watkins Glen race winners trying to show return of form. Casper's behind the wheel of this car once again, and so far leading the way in blistering style. 10.7 seconds the gap. Magic 55 tried responding while they had the race lead. Now that it is in the hands of the 71 crew, it is a never-ending wedge being driven between the 55 and the race lead. Casper's in behind the wheel here at the moment as things currently stand. Again, for everyone tuning in, and we appreciate you spending your Saturday with us here on ABN Esports 1. Your home for esports every day of the week. We have another broadcast tonight, 9:45 p.m. It's the ARC Saturday Night Showdown Series. The last race in their round of 10 in their playoffs. So we get double duty action here tonight. I'll be joined later on in this race by Taylor Mills, ABN Sports Car Champion, multi-class aficionado, LMP1 fanatic. Probably one of the most well-renowned drivers in the LMP1 circles. She'll be joining me in the booth here later on in this race. For those that are new, for those just now tuning in, I'm Carmen Sienna. Bring you flag-to-flag coverage of the 10 hours at Hockenheim, the third race of the Platinum Endurance Championship season. Right now you're looking at the race leader. Wesley Casper's leading the way. Lithium Motorsports in a, meanwhile, frantic battle further down the order. Zachary Livingood chasing down. That is a 21 car with Martin Kafod behind the wheel. So far, things are doing good. Kafod sitting behind the wheel right now in 8th place. Carbono Esports JD hold on to the race lead in GT3 Pro. Meanwhile, Virtual Sandy Racing with Lemmy Mishk commanding lead in GT3 AM. SR Technic second place in that class right now, but almost a full lap behind. Lemmy Mishk behind the wheel. Once again, so Lemmy Mishk, again, you're looking at a lot of drivers that either didn't do well or were not present at Interlagos a couple weeks ago, coming back in full force here. Project Dynamic Green, dominant cars at Watkins Glen. Same with Virtual Sandy Racing and GT3 AM. Peaky drivers were one of those cars too that looked really good at Watkins Glen, but bad luck once again biting them here. Carbono Esports JD now leading the way in GT3 Pro. And for those just tuning in, I'm Carmen Sienna. A little bit of sports car experience myself, being a 24 Hours of Daytona race winner. No LMP2 cars. That's the car I won the 24 Hours of Daytona in. No LMP2s in this field. But instead we have some amazing GTPs. A lot of Cadillacs, some Acuras, and a Porsche in this field. Caspers leads the way. It's the Magic Arrow 55 a little bit further down. Norbert Thomas still behind the wheel of that 55 for Magic Arrow. This race has had a little bit of everything already so far in this race. We've had a red flag, a race restart, top of qualifying, the initial race start. We've had pit stops already. And we've been live for about 3 hours and 30 minutes so far, bringing you bell-to-bell coverage. We'll be live all the way through the end of this race, right here on ABN Esports 1. Going to be a very long day up here in the booth. We appreciate all the support you've given us so far. We're on the race to 1,000 followers here on Twitch. Currently above 830. All the support's appreciated. If you're new and you haven't followed us already, feel free to follow us. If you want to see all this type of content every day of the week, easy place to find it. If you want to support us even more, feel free to subscribe to us here on Twitch. If you're a Twitch Prime user, it's free. Got to get that plug out of the way. Norbert Thomas in second place. Again, kind of just now in his own race. Nowhere close to Wesley Casper's now, over 10 seconds the gap. But now it's a matter of managing your race and letting cards begin to fall here. If you're the 55 crew, you've lost the race lead, you've lost that advantage, and now you need a little bit of luck to come your way again. And this is a long race where luck can come and go as it pleases. Max Devil's Red, likewise, closing the gap a little bit here. Sergio Bora, pole sitter in this race, has not really held the lead for much of this race. Lost it near the start and has not been able to regain it. But again, it's one of the situations where a long race where anything can happen. Likewise, you think about the 71. 71 had no qualifying pace whatsoever, did not qualify well. Clawed their way through the field, had to use their race pace to make something happen. But tides, they will change. You see that the sun is setting. We will be entering nighttime conditions here at Hockenheim. And that's where things typically get pretty spicy here in endurance racing. The 44 cars, give them headlights, let them flash, and let chaos take over. Sometimes is how it goes. It's how it went for a little bit at Watkins Glen 7 weeks ago. Sergio Bora, third place, working his way around one of the lap down cars. Rider Engineering, though, not far away. Patrick Silvassi behind the wheel there, looking for a podium. First podium of the season for the GTP runner-ups from last season. How disappointing this season has been for them as they move from BMW to Cadillac. Roberto Esports JD, likewise, still holding the top spot in GT3 Pro. A little bit of a lull in the intensity here. Right now, the closest battle we see right now on track is really between non-class rivals here, between Lemmy Mishk and Euromaster Esports, and that's not really an interclass battle. Euromaster Esports and GT3 Pro, Virtual Insanity Racing, you can tell they're on the side of your screen, leading GT3 AM. Pair of Porsches there. We've entered this stanza where right now we're waiting for pit stops to really kind of shake things up once again. They shook things up pretty firmly the first go around. And we know that it will be GTP cars that come in first. They'll be coming in about 20 minutes time. So we know that in advance. A pretty good bearing on as to who's where and when those pit windows are going to happen. GT3s have had a longer pit window, more fuel in those cars to make that extra distance. Now about this brand new team to the series. Overtake Team 4, Marius Blendea behind the wheel. Another Ferrari 296, but what a first race for them. Chaos from the very start. Right now they're sitting 7th in class. Not a bad effort so far for that brand new team, who's had a very early morning, being right here in the United States as well. A long race still ahead of us. See the timer. 10 hours of Hockenheim. Why is there 9 minutes 45 on the clock? We had a red flag period, which paused the timer at about 15 minutes. We had to do a full lobby reset, so they took the first 15 minutes that were already run off the clock. So we've been here a little bit longer in this race. It's been a phenomenal time so far. A little bit of controversy, as is normal for fields when you have 44 cars. A little bit of latency there. Not sure if that was on our end or on the end of the 55. I think it might have been on our end there, but Thomas trying to get around some of the lap down GT3 cars. Closing the gap a little bit. No trouble. That was one of the GT3 cars that just went around big time. Pivoted away at the worst possible time to work on this battle going on right now between XPDMRL Racing and Mass Devils Blue. We're trying to find some battles going on here. Just find the wrong battle at the right time. Or the right battle at the wrong time. Ivan Hernandez in 5th place for XPDMRL Racing. Again, everyone in the top 12. So we talk about this, and we'll get to pick some brains here. As you see, there's the car that we were looking at needing to come down pit lane. That was the SR Technic 213, I believe, coming down pit lane. No, that was the wrong car we picked. Jorge Mendez Pinheiro. Was it the F Racing Devoy? It was the F Racing Hugo Miguel Pereira coming down pit lane. As was the Go Esports number 23. So they've come down pit lane as well. And that was why they're missing their rear wing. As the Casper's leading the way in GTP. Again, we have a lot of stuff coming up here in the next hour and change. Magic 55 in 2nd place right now. Norbert Thomas, Mass Devils Red, with Sergio Bora in 3rd place. Ryder Engineering in 4th with Patrick Silvasi. Then you have Ivan Hernandez in 5th. 6th place, Mass Devils Blue with Eloy Caballero. Then you have Future Racing Team Pro with Nick Baggerman. 56 of Dominic Facete. Miguel Apalo in 9th place, and Stop and Go Racing in 10th with Morten Kofod. Been a race of attrition to some degree. Alberto Moreno keeps a hold of the race lead in GT3. Keeping an eye on that 211 machine here as we approach nearly the 2-hour mark here in this race. Watching Alberto Moreno manage and mitigate traffic. It looks like a little bit of a battle here. In this battle for 2nd place, Go Racing Team Red, Euromaster Esports, and Enosis Esports nose to tail for the 2nd position in GT3 Pro. And it looks like there's the GT3 AM leader of Lemmy Mishk, not far behind as well. It's BMW's 1 and 2, Porsche 3rd, Ferrari 4th. As things currently run. One of the GTPs trying to make their way through. Juan Manuel Frias-Gomez looks for the second position. Does he get it? He will, out of the hairpin. Master Esports back up to second place. Pole sitters in this race had issues on their first pit stop and have tried to work their way through once again and have gotten themselves back up to the second spot. XP Emerald Racing and just at the fast stop of the race. It's Juan Manuel Frias-Gomez leading the way. Master Esports right now running, trying to close the 16-second gap to the race leader. They've got plenty of time to do it now, but they cannot afford more misfortunes as Lemmy Mishk in this battle as well. 5th place overall in GT3, leading GT3M exceptionally well. The car behind, I believe, that is the Chicaneland Racing Team Blue, if I'm not mistaken on that one. That team has had a very rough time so far. Alice Gall started that car. Alice Gall still in that car, but down in 17th in class. 37th overall in this race. Mishk right now still mixing it up, and actually I think getting around, I think that is getting around the Grow Racing Team red car. That was one of the BMWs that was just second place a minute ago. Now Lemmy Mishk has gotten around and almost on the podium for GT3 as the overall position here. Virtual City Racing with Lemmy Mishk in 4th place in GT3. Speaking to the insanity of how this race has been so far. Right now focusing on the Enosis Esports driver, Miguel Santos. Right now trying to defend from Lemmy Mishk. A little bit further up the road, here is Wesley Caspers, the race leader in GTP. Gap has begun to come down a little bit between Caspers and the Magic Arrow number 55 machine. There's 55. Thomas getting around some of the GT3s, entering the hairpin, turn 5. Contact a little bit further back. A little bit of frantic activity there. That was Miguel Santos, actually. That was Santos and Mishk that got together. Racing it out hard. Mishk now 3rd overall in GT3. Driving the daylights out. Mishk in 3rd place now overall in GT3. Got ahead of the Enosis Esports Ferrari of Miguel Santos. You see a whole flurry of GTPs taking on this group into turn 2. I believe that was actually the Rider Engineering number 76 in this battle. That is with the Masked Devils Red number 7. Making their way through some lap traffic. And a little bit of contact on the way through. Silvassi trying to hold on to the podium spot. Can he do it? 7 sticks it in still. Still side by side as they now have to navigate second place in GT3. And Silvassi gets the advantage of the position over the 7. The Masked Devil's Red machine, that Cadillac of Sergio Bora. Bora's going to try to keep the pressure up. Sends it into the stadium section hairpin. Bora leads the way. Getting that third position right back. It's one of the GT3 cars leaving pit lane. AZR Motorsport White leaving pit lane. I believe that's one of the AM class cars, if I'm not mistaken. Have to make sure of that. Actually, no, that might be the 220. No, that's not the 220. It is the AZR Motorsport White. There's the AZR Motorsport Pro car. Being driven by Pedro Arnaud. That was Joao Ferrer behind the wheel of the 322 that just came out of pit lane. Sergio Bora still leads third place right now in GT3 Pro. Magic 56 has come down pit lane. Dominic Facchette. And that is not a pit stop for fuel or tires. That is a pit stop for damage. That 56 car wounded now. Wesley Caspers holds on to the race lead. Will put another car lap down with Magic Arrow now in the pit with that 56 car. Caspers leading the way in GTP and overall, really. Ryder Engineering in the 4th position. Still trying to chase down the 7 of Bora. Lap traffic once again in the way. But we know pit stops for the second time are coming for the GTP class. As looks like one of the GTPs are going to try to get out of the way. That was one of the slower ones. Moving out of the way of Silvassi. Silvassi trying to chase down, has lost a little bit of time to the 7 of Sergio Bora. Again, we're almost 4 hours into this broadcast. Some of these drivers have been in this car for a lot longer than that. Practice began at 7 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. We went live at 8. And some drivers have been in that car for the entire time. It has been a wild ride so far. Project Dynamic Green lead the way, though. Silvassi, one of those that were starting this car for Ryder Engineering. So we expect some driver changes to come pretty imminently in this race. Eloy Caballero lead the way. 5th place for them right now. XDMR Racing in pit lane. Ivan Hernandez. We'll see a driver change. Alberto Garcia Blasco in the car now for the number 5 crew. Miguel Apollo in the number 99 for F Racing in their LMDH machine. Stop and Go Racing 9th place with Martin Caffode. You have Lithium Motorsports, Zachary Livingood in the top 10. Nix Esports once again in 11th place. Albert Blanc behind the wheel of that car. In GT3, it's Albert Moreno leading the way. Euromaster Esports with Juan Manuel Frias Gomez in second. Third place overall is the leader in GT3M, Lemmy Mishk. Doing a crazy job in that 359. Looking right now at an overall podium in GT3. Close battle warming up here between Karuma Motorsport and Antonio Ordieres, and Enosis Esports just ahead of them. Looking forward at Enosis Esports, that is where you'll find Miguel Santos. Pit stops beginning for some of the lead cars in GTP. Does pit stops come this way for Wesley Caspers? It does. So Caspers comes in from the race lead. Thomas stays out an extra lap. Thomas will stay out and will re-inherit the lead temporarily. And update here, so we kind of missed it because we saw the 71 enter pit lane. That 71 was serving a drive-through penalty. That was not a pit stop. That was a drive-through penalty for Wesley Caspers for an incident with the 322 for A0 Motorsport. Likewise, we have information on another penalty here. This one a little bit more significant and a bit of an upgrade here. 30-second hold for the 277 machine. That is Sim Racing Concept. Victor Florido Gomez. A 30-second stop for a collision with two cars, with the 7 and the 23. So that is a GT3 in trouble with two GTP class cars. So they've earned a 30-second hold. They've faced an incremental penalty here, increase, for causing two avoidable contacts. So, drive through the stop and hold penalty for this car right here. Victor Florido Gomez, Sim Racing Concept. That has been confirmed. We'll have to see when that car comes in for that penalty. But likewise, the drive-through served. Now we see a full-on service stop here. Adrian Travado back in that car for the first time. Wesley Caspers has stepped out of that car. So they've suffered a driver change. We knew that pit stops were coming imminently for the GTP class cars, but now they are in earnest for the leaders here. Norbert Thomas now leading the way firmly with a pit stop left to really kind of figure things out here. Travado in that car though now. How long does Thomas stay in that car is the next big question. keeping an eye on things as they are right now. Norbert Thomas leads the way. Again, we know pit stops are coming imminently. It's a matter of when. Obviously, if there's contact with the 7, the Mass Devils red machine, when do they come in and how long is that pit stop going to be? Here comes Thomas in pit lane now. So Thomas is making their stop now. When does Sergio Bora come down pit lane? Does he come down this time by... No, he does not. So Bora should inherit the race lead here. And Project Dynamic Green already down so far down the order here. Just now approaching turn 5. Phenomenal stuff going on right now. Stravato trying to close in this gap now after that penalty that was served earlier. Magic Arrow 55 still in pit lane. They've also done a drive-through. Veloz Rossi in that car now for Magic Arrow. And that is a car off in turn 1. That is Ordinin Svetanov. Then at Delta by Buellers. That car went off. Diego Cabezas and Alex Gonzalez also looked like they were involved in that. What happened to this car? First time we've seen a replay pop up as an option here. What happens here? Is this an issue with a GTP? No, it was not an issue with GTP. It was just a turnout there. And you see there's an issue further ahead. So these are not the same incidents that we saw. What happened to Alex Gonzalez? Because this looks like a pair of prototypes here involved, and that is significant damage. Alex Gonzalez rounding the corner here. Seems like this trouble started a little bit further ahead. Daniel Cruz. Oh, that's a huge incident there. That's the 299 for Core Motorsports. Huge crash there. Not so unlucky there for Ordinian Svetanov, who luckily got away with that with very minimal risk. Just managed to get out of the way, had to roll backwards to make it happen though. And will live to fight another day, sitting 9th place in GT3. Mass Devils Red lead the way overall now though. They have yet to make a pit stop in this race as things currently stand right now. Another penalty has fallen through the grapevine here. Another drive-through for a single avoidable contact incident, and it is with the number 10, Mass Devils Blue, with Alvaro Gutierrez, who just recently came out of pit lane. I believe this is a penalty from before Gutierrez took the car over, so I don't think they've served this penalty yet. We'll see if they serve it here. But that is the Mass Devils Blue machine. Currently sitting 5th place. A drive-through penalty here with about 15-16 seconds worth of slowdown time. And they do not come in this time by. So they may have already served it. We'll see if they have or not. Their team car, Sergio Bora, lead the way though. So Mass Devils Red still having a really good time right now, leading the way, although they need to make a pit stop here. They're the last car in need of a pit stop right now, as things currently stand. Another drive-through penalties come through on the grapevine here, and this time it's the 56. Another avoidable contact penalty with its penalty contact with the 297 Koi Racing red car. Sergio Bora comes down pit lane here. So Mass Devils Red in pit lane. Where is Matchgo 55 going to be at? There's Balazs Tarozzi. Does Tarozzi retake the race lead here with this pit stop by Sergio Bora? Tarozzi will take over the race lead. Mass Devils Red coming out of pit lane now will be under threat from going lapped. Not getting lapped, but going down to third place. They will go down to third place by Adre Stravato. And a turn 3 or cold tires for that car that almost got spun around. Alvaro Garcia. Driver change there for that number 7 machine and almost had a spin around facing the wrong way through turn 2. That was almost an absolute disaster. Pressure is on right now for Stravato to try to make up the lost ground here. That drive-through penalty definitely did not help in that battle with the 55 machine. For those wondering, why isn't ABN covering the GT3 battle? Because there's not much of one to talk about at the moment. Alberto Moreno was gifted with a fantastic opportunity when the Euromasters Esports car had an issue on pit lane on their first pit stop, and the Peaky drivers got taken out in a crash with 2 other GTP cars. There's not been a lot to talk about right now with Roberto Moreno and Carbono Esports JD, and likewise, Euromasters Esports have not really made any inroads after they've gotten to second place. The biggest talking point so far in GT3 AM it really has been Lemmy Mishk, who is third place overall in GT3. That's about the only significant talking point so far. You want to talk about potential talking points later on. Kerma Motorsport right now trying to catch up to Grow Racing Team Red. That is for 4th and 5th in class. But I believe Kerma Motorsport has not been able to make it really much further than a second behind that car. Overtake Team Ford, their first race right now, they're staying pretty well in the 6th position. But again, they're on a bit of an island. The next car behind them, AZR Motorsport, their pro car, going past their AM car, both cars together and the same level there. Still over 6 seconds behind. So it's hard to find ways to make that palatable other than just saying, yeah, everyone kind of existing right now, but until pit stops, there's not a lot of change going on right now. Pit stops have been the great equalizer for GT3, more so than the nose of the GTPs that have been forcing it down the inside of just about every braking point. Matchgo 55 with Balazs Tarozzi still leads the way, but it's an opening gap, 11.3 seconds. At the front of the field is the gap here. Mass Devils Blue in pit lane, Alvaro Gutierrez. in pit lane once again. Stop and go racing with Martin Caffone in 9th place. F Racing LMDH in the top 10 with Julio Pinto. "38 cars still running in this race out of the 44 that started. Unfortunately, upon the retirement, you have peaky drivers that are officially out of this race. Go Esports, Rucanor Racing, Race to Esport, and IPM Gold all out. Interestingly enough, all 7 of the GT3 AM cars in this field still rolling. Future Racing Team, one of the last cars rolling on track right now, Fleming Jensen in that car, 7th in class, 37th overall. 10 laps off the race leader in that class, but the objective is to finish 90% of the race compared to your class leader and take the checkered flag to score points, and they need points. So they're going to try to persevere and push forward and hope some bad luck befalls some other of their competitors. Fleming Jensen's in there in the 7th position right now, as we try to keep an eye on if there's any more penalties that come through the grapevine. Doesn't look like that is the case. Looks like we're pretty good right now. See you, Wesley, in the Twitch chat, telling us to hydrate. We are past the hour mark, so we may have to do that. For everyone that's watching, we've had anywhere between 40 and 60 people watching live at any given time. We appreciate the support you've been giving us so far. We appreciate it all so much. Again, if you're not following us already, feel free to follow us here. We do this stuff every day of the week, whether it's stock cars, open wheel, sports cars. We do it all here in ABN Esports. All your support's appreciated. We are actually 12 days away from our anniversary from when we started. So we get to celebrate that. Uh-oh. There's another penalty on the board. I have to double check here to make sure, but I believe that's another penalty on the board, and it's not a pretty one. Yeah, that's another penalty, and unfortunately it is for the 76. It is for the Ryder Engineering Esports team. A second warning. Think of it like a yellow card to red card situation if you're a football fan. They had a yellow card for dangerous driving, and now it's been upgraded to a drive-through. Second warning, turning into a drive-through here, so they will have to make a trip down pit lane, and that's going to hurt them. They are certainly sitting top 5 at the moment. Ryder Engineering, that is Gianni Peroni. So they've got to drive through right now. And that, to me, that looks like the last thing going on right now at the moment. So, 76 has a drive-through to serve here. Should be expecting that car to come in shortly, which means they will likely relinquish that 6th place. Because there's, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that immediately. The 18 car, Akko Senseki. That is what discernibly a Greek name. I just not sure how to pronounce it. So we'll just go with the 18 car for now until I look that up. Give me a second to find some notes on that one. Magic Girl 55 likewise has fallen down a significant amount. Never mind, they're in the race lead. They just fell out of our vision. Legitimately thought that with how this race had turned out so far that they had actually had an issue, but they have not. They're still fine. Adrian Travado still about 11.6 behind the Magic Girl 55 team. Mass Devils Red, who have had issues in this race. Garcia behind the wheel, having to serve a drive-through earlier in this race, back when Sergio Bora was in the car. XVD Morale Racing in the 4th position. Alberto Garcia Blasco now in the wheel of that car. Another car that's had issues so far. And then Nix Esports, who had issues early in this race, recovering well so far. Still need to make a pit stop. They've not pit since lap 49. About now. Here they come in. I'm good at this timing thing, I swear. Right engineering. They have to make a drive-through penalty here. Future Racing Team Pro has lost a little bit of time. Gianni Perron will stay out one more lap here. Future Racing Team Pro with Akko Senseki. We'll make some inroads here. Cabano Esports JD, the race leader in GT3 Pro, has come down pit lane. So the race leader in GT3, and that's a driver change for Cabano Esports JD. Virtual Insanity Racing also coming down. Lemmy Mishk coming down pit lane. New car, new driver in the 211, Gerard Sardini Jr. And that is another car. A lot of damage in that car as well. Well, the car coming down pit lane. I think that has to be, I think, the Halbside Motorsport 327. Lemmy Mishk getting out of the car. Philip Spez getting in the car. Philip Spez was in that car in Interlagos. So a mixture of drivers from the Watkins Glen crew and the Interlagos crew present tonight for the 359 team. Analyst Esports leads the way. Miguel Santos behind the wheel here. We are over 2 hours into this race. We're over 4 hours into tonight's broadcast here. The 10 hours of Hockenheim. We're going to step aside for a hydration break. Don't go anywhere. Non-stop coverage of the 10 hours of Hockenheim continues here at ABN Esports 1. Welcome back, everyone. 2 hours and 30 minutes on the clock. That's what's been completed so far out of 10 hours here at Hockenheim. For everyone watching around the world, welcome to ABN Esports One's coverage of the Platinum Endurance Championship, the 10 hours of Hockenheim. Here today, flag-to-flag coverage. And now we're looking at this battle for the 8th place in GTP between Julia Pinto for F Racing LMDH and Nix Esports with Diego Cayon. All of them right now running around on track at the moment as things currently stand. Battle pretty well, I think, done and dusted now, with Nix Esports now struggling to keep pace. Front of the field still belongs to Magic Arrow 55. Magic Arrow 55 lead the way over Project Dynamic Green and Mass Devils Red, who stay in a firm third. Answering some questions live in the chat. For those wondering, for those asking us to kind of go back and see if we can find instant replays, we cannot. Obviously, so one issue is that we can't see all 40 cars on track. There's still too many cars on track for us to be able to see everybody. But also, anything beyond 30 minutes ago, we won't be able to pull up. So as far as like trying to go back and deep dive what happened to certain cars, we won't be able to do that, unfortunately. It's been really hard to just get replays that happen to begin with. We've seen 2 in about 3 hours, so I haven't been able to see a whole lot. Most recent one I can bring up is the one where they had an incident here that is in the final sector. Not sure what happened here. That is the 327. That's the Halpside Motorsport car. That might be what they were talking about beforehand in the Twitch chat. But that is again what happened here with the 327 machine. They had been in incidents beforehand because they are several laps down. So I'm guessing this is what they were talking about beforehand. And obviously not sure what all was going on in that situation there at the moment. But that could be what they were talking about in the live Twitch chat here. If that was what you're talking about, then we got you covered. Didn't realize that that was the 327 car, because that was during our hydration break. Hachiko 55 lead the way in GTP over Project Dynamic Green and Mass Devils Red. XPD Emerald Racing not far behind either. It's Garcia versus Garcia. Alvaral versus Alberto Garcia. I'm trying to look out here. We still have 38 cars still rolling on track. So, still a lot of cars running around at the moment. In GT3 Pro, it is still Carbano Esports JD leading the way. Gerard Sardini Jr. behind the wheel. Leading the way by about 15.4 seconds. That gap has been pretty stagnant the entire time. Driver changes have pretty well contributed to that. Fran Parada Camara Sr. behind the wheel of the Euromasters Esports machine. Go Esports GTP leaving pit lane now. That is Jose Carlos Villarreal, 13th overall, and in GTP. Again, Fran Parada Camara Sr. in second place there for Euromaster Esports. Genosis Esports 5 further seconds adrift in the third position. Virtual Insanity Racing, the 359 by Phillips Bez behind the wheel, leading GT3M, 4th overall in GT3. Pro Racing Team Red, 4th in GT3 Pro. Luis Barbosa behind the wheel there. Then it's Crew Motorsport with Fran Vanal. Overtake with Jonathan Newman. They're sitting 6th on their debut. ASU Motorsport, their pro squad. Guillermo Costa Race in 7th place. Really Slow Motion Racing further back. Miklos Gal behind the wheel there for the G29. SR Technic in 2nd place in GT3M. Aurelio Canero behind the wheel of that car that has seen some drama. That Ferrari has seen some damage. Carbano Esports 3rd place in GT3M. Gilberto Aliane behind the wheel there. Negative Delta by Bueller's 9th place in GT3 Pro. I'm not going to pretend to pronounce that name. I'll have to look that one up. But Negative Delta by Bueller sitting 9th place in GT3 Pro. SR Technic, their pro squad, 213. Jorge Mendez Pinheiro sitting in 10th place in GT3 Pro. A little further down, pick up the pace. 4th place in GT3M. Gonzalo Paixo behind the wheel there. Halpso Motorsport in pit lane still. Kevin Simon behind the wheel when that car emerges from pit lane. Speaking of cars in pit lane, Alex Gonzalez spent a decent amount of time in pit lane for Carbano Esports Black. Not a driver we had a whole bunch of information on going into this race, but he is driving for that team right now. And 14th place, several laps off the pace. And Gerard Sardini Jr. leading the way for Carbano Esports JD. Magico 55 leading this group right here. Adrian Stavato and Project Dynamic Green. Balastarosi has the advantage at the moment, but how long will it last? Now, it looks like a representative from Future Racing Team Pro have been summoned to the steward's office. So I wonder what's going on with that number 18 car. Number 18 currently sitting 3rd right now on the track. That's part of Dynamic Green, XPD Emerald Racing, 3rd on track. I apologize on that one. Future Racing Team Pro actually 5th on track at the moment. Mass Devils Racing Red, number 7, Alvaro Garcia in 4th. Then you have Future Racing Team Red with Akko Senseki in the 5th position at the moment. Again, a representative of this team has been summoned to the steward's office. Rider Engineering Esport with Gianni Perrone in 6th place. That team had to serve a drive-through before they made their driver change to put Perun in the car. And now it looks like potentially they can get one of those positions back. Mass Devils Blue battling with Stop and Go Racing, Alvaro Gutierrez, and then Stop and Go Racing, Martin Kafod behind the wheel there. We are not far away from lunch break here for commentary for the 10 hours of Hockenheim. It is approaching 1 p.m. Eastern here in the U.S. for those watching around the world. Appreciate you spending your time with us. We need to take a second to take a lunch break here, though. Almost 5 hours into our broadcast here. So we'll be hanging around for a few more minutes, see if there's another pit stop sequence that comes in here in the next 10-15 minutes. And then we'll step away for a much-needed lunch break. Don't worry, commentary, the broadcast is not going to stop. You'll see a lot of onboards in that lunch break time. But that's coming up here in about 15 minutes time. We'll be taking a small lunch break before we can resume commentary duties here in the booth. And by the time I come back from the lunch break, we'll have Taylor Mills in the booth with us, so we'll have some more expert analysis in the booth on hand for this race. Again, that's about 15 minutes away. So, bear with us on that one. Answering one of the Twitch chats, Virtual State of Racing on Drugs. AM class is P4 overall. It's been a wild race in GT3. Obviously, a lot of controversy with a lot of contact and collision between GTP and GT3 cars that have really contributed to that. But Virtual State Racing, Lemmy Mishk has been a phenomenal driver. Obviously, Mishk not in the car now. Philip Spess is in that car in 4th place in the GT3 AM category. But it's been absolutely wild watching that car actually perform. See if we can show the overall here. Not quite how I wanted that to look. Give me a second. Not how I wanted that to look, unfortunately. I was going to try to see if I can pull up like in the whole... Just trying to pull up like the whole like actual like overall standings, but it won't work. So for those wondering why we can't do that, that was why. Approaching the 2 hours 45 minute mark. Again, remember that there is a 15-minute opening stand-up to this race. A red flag pulled a lot of things to a halt. So we're almost to the 3-hour mark in this race. We had a red flag period for technical issues and having to do a complete reset to get everything ready to go. So we're almost to the 3-hour mark here based on where everyone's at right now. Gerard Sardini Jr. sitting behind the wheel of the leading GT3 Pro car at the moment. Euromasters Esports in the 2nd position right now as things run. Fran Parada Camara Sr. in 2nd place here. Magic 056 in pit lane with Cohen Gertz behind the wheel. Looks like more cars entering pit lane as well. Not one of those cars, Adrian Servato, who is coming out of the hairpin here, trying to close that gap in. It has been quite the opposite. Magico 55 with Tarosi sitting pretty well. Open up an 18-second gap on Project Dynamic Grain and 27 seconds to XPD Morale Racing. They've been pretty well outstanding in this phase of the race so far, opening up that gap. Kind of double checking and seeing. It looks like we have another penalty here. That is not the penalty. That was from the last penalty when we had a that was the Ryder Engineering Esports drive-through. This drive-through is in GT3 Pro. It is the 278, I believe, that has had a drive-through for an incident with the 201, the 07 racing car. So GT3 Pro and GT3 Pro violence is what we're seeing here, and that's going to pop up on your screen now between those cars. To the Mills in chat pointing out that the number 99 has been pointing out fastest laps. 99 trying to catch up to that is the battle for 11th place between F Racing and Nix Esports that Taylor's been keeping an eye on as well. Again, we'll hear from her in a little bit. That is actually about for 9th and 10th place. That is Julio Pinto trying to catch in. As here comes the pit stops for some of the GT3 cars, some of the GTP cars, excuse me. Again, we'll hear from Taylor here momentarily. We're going to go on a lunch break first here in the broadcast booth. When we come back, Taylor will be in the booth with us, and we will carry on from there. But pit stops going on right now with some of the GT3 or GTP machines. Alberto Garcia Blasco, one of the higher placing cars to come down pit lane this time through. The number 5 machine from 4th position. Future Racing New Bro with Akko Senzeki coming down pit lane as well. And we got another penalty report, it looks like here. This one's going to hurt a little bit more, too, because this is the leading car in GTP. Penalty for the Magic Arrow 55 team. Drive-through penalty for avoidable contact. It is with the 242, the Chicane Land Racing Blue team. So a penalty for Balaz Tarosi. who is about to feel a lot of pressure. It was working so well to open up that gap to AJ Travado and Dynamic Green. It is basically going to evaporate here. Going to all but evaporate. Project Dynamic Green, second place right now. Travado in 19 seconds the gap. That'll whittle away to next to nothing. Huge difference there. So Tarosi in trouble. Yeah, car center of your screen is gonna have to serve a drive-through penalty. That is that's basically a 15-second loss immediately, because especially with pit stops incoming too, like it's not like this happened like in the middle of a stint. This is like right before pit stops, so you're gonna have to come down pit lane twice. That's critical. Absolutely critical. Did not serve it this time. He's going to wait as long as he can to serve it. He's faster than Travado is, so he knows he's got to push here. But he's got 3 laps to serve that penalty. Now, I think he's got 2 laps, less than 2 laps now. I think he might have to serve it this time, because he's got to serve the penalty and then come down pit lane. Drive-through means you cannot attain service. You cannot stop in your box for service when you're serving a drive-through penalty, so that'll be a struggle there. And that'll put it right back in the hands of AJ Travado to really make something happen. Travado actually came in this time. There's Travado in pit lane now. Getting his work done. So, Tarosi, if he's going to make that move happen, he's going to make it move quickly. Again, wild stuff going on right now. The last Tarosi, and I think he's got it to the drive-through here this lap. He has yet to serve it. Unfortunately, you don't get to pick and choose when to serve it. You have to serve within 3 laps. Now, with Project Dynamic Green already making a pit stop, and then Mass Devils Red having to make a pit stop still. The idea, at least, is that Tarosi's going to hold on to the race lead. But that cushion's going to be completely gone. And that's the valid concern right now for Tarosi, is that the gap that he had been building and the gap that he inherited is completely eviscerated now. Trouble a little bit further forward. Thomas Mork has jumped to pit lane. See if we find it or not. Here's Thomas Mork. This is close to the stadium section. What happens to the 21 car? Over the curbing, over the AstroTurf, and that's a hard hit. Yeah, there's no recovering from that one. So that was the 21 Stop and Go Racing team. That was in trouble. And that may be race over for that 21 machine. Leader in GT3 Pro, Gerard Sardini Jr., continues that exact momentum. Euramaster Esports with Fran Parada Camara Sr. has gained only a second so far in this stint. Very slow progress, slugging forward for the 264 car with a lot of work to do. Virtual Insanity Racing continues to lead GT3M. Phil's best, trusted to just preserve the work that was done by Lemmy Mishk. There's the 201 machine. That is the 07 racing team car that did not have a great time, was involved in an incident. Fabio Ponta behind the wheel of that car now. Just trying to make things happen here. We are approaching the 3-hour mark, so we're going to take our lunch break here for commentary right now. Have one more driver summoned. We have another team summoned to have a representative in the steward's office. This is the 10 car, the Mass Devils blue team, having a representative summoned. As the Magic Arrows team comes down pit lane, Balazs Tarosi taking service here. So here comes the pain. But we're going to go ahead and jump to our lunch break here. Pedro Salvato in third place. Then you have the second place car of Alvaro Garcia, who will take over the lead of the race. With the 7 back on the pole, back out front, the car that had pole position. We're right on board with them to start off our lunch break here. Remember, if you want to control the onboards of the cars in this race, use your channel points. $0 part of ABN Esports 1's Twitch channel rewards. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone had a wonderful break. We spent about half hour on that lunch break. I'm Carmen, Sienna here on ABN Esports 1 for the 10 hours of Hockenheim. Joining me now is a driver very well versed in the sports car realm, ABN Sports Car Champion, leader of her own team, Taylor Mills Racing. Taylor Mills in the booth with me right now to enjoy the second half of this race. Taylor, welcome to the broadcast. Obviously, you've been watching just about this entire race so far. Walk us through sort of some of the things that we've been seeing over these first 3 hours and about 22 minutes so far as we watch this battle for the lead in GT3 Pro.
Well, I'll tell you what an exciting race we've had so far. Absolutely full to the brim with drama end to end. We've had interclass crashes. We've had clashes between GTs and the GTPs. Very typical to what you see on iRacing. Everyone moaning about each other. Nothing too different there. I think the biggest surprise so far this race has been seeing the leader of the GT3 AM class, Virtual Insanity Racing, just be absolutely up there on pace all the way through, fighting in for P4 in GT3 overall, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, Virtual Insanity Racing, mostly with the work of Lemmy Mish, has done a phenomenal job so far. Right now, 6th overall in GT3, with I think Philip Spez behind the wheel, the Austrian driver. Right now, looking at this battle at the lead of GT3 Pro, Euromaster is the pole sitter. Took them almost 3 hours and 30 minutes to get back to the front of the field, but they finally got clear of the Carbano Esports car. Porsche once again out in front ahead of BMW with Ferrari Eurotech Team 4. Brand new team sitting in 3rd position here in GT3 Pro. A phenomenal job so far for that team on their debut.
Yeah, what a fantastic move from the Porsche there, taking advantage of the rear engine position of that car, just to get on the power that little bit early out of the hairpin, fire them all the way down towards turn 7 and then the Mercedes-Benz arena.
Seeing right now one of the cars in pit lane, that's the Nix Esports number 33.
That scheduled stop?
Did not look like it on my end here. Lap 113, we're on lap 132 now. That might have been the drive-through. A couple penalties were issued about 10 minutes ago. One of them was for Nix Esports, a drive-through for an incident with the 311, the Carbano Esports AM car. Another penalty, with drive-through penalty for the 318, the Future Racing Team car, after being involved in an incident with the number 5 GTP.
Yes, sadly we did miss both of those whilst we were on our commentary break. But it does seem like Nix Esports have now served their drive-through, so they've got that off their plate now, so they can just focus on the race ahead and the next, what have we got, 6 hours in front of us.
Yeah, a long amount of racing still to go. You think about how much can change just in an hour-long race. We have 6 hours left, and so much has changed. We have 11 GTPs still running in contention. There is a car off.
That's the
AZR.
There's a car off.
AZR
What's
Motorsports.
happened there? Is that damage? Have they nosed into the wall there? The question has to be asked.
No, it looks like there is damage on Pedro Arnaud's car. That is 5th place in GT3 Pro.
Yeah, now did they fall or were they pushed? Let's have a look at the replay here. Coming into...
They're on their own.
Yeah, coming into the final sector, just getting it on the... No. Wow,
drops it right off the curbing, and that's a bad hit.
Wow, you don't typically see that. That curb's like usually really, really safe to run. And the only time you see a spin is if someone ends up on the gravel on the outside, but I can imagine the car's just bottomed out on the curb, stalled the arrow on the rear diffuser, and then round goes the car and into the wall.
Steven right on board here, gathering ideas to how much that car just drops. Yeah, it just drops that right rear.
Spin.
That left rear.
That's not insignificant damage either. No. I think fortunately though, the BMW did go into the wall head on. So they are continuing, they haven't pit for repairs. But when it comes to it, it should only be a short repair, considering it should just be a little bit of aero damage.
You also run the risk though, obviously if the front end piece, the biggest concern would be the radiator. Make sure that that radiator is not damaged. With how the damage model is on these cars, if you lose the radiator, it could lead to some significant damage, especially if the engine ends up going. It's an easy way to have that race kind of go kaput. So they'll be looking at that, the engine temperatures, I think, pretty significantly.
Well, I think you can only hope as the air temperature drops over here in Hockenheim that the engine shouldn't have too much issues with getting cool, but you never know with iRacing, anything can happen.
Yeah, bring up a good point there. The weather conditions have cooled significantly as the sun has dropped here at Hockenheim. 19 degrees centigrade is the temperature, both track and air temp. And the wind temp continues to be pretty high. 20 kilometers an hour is the wind speed here at Hockenheim right now. The peak was at 26 kilometers an hour, but it's stayed consistently high. So that airflow hopefully will help keep that car out a little bit, but still very much a concern for that team as they continue to actually gain a little bit on that fourth place car, the Overtake. The Overtake, Team 4.
Brand new to the series as well, I believe. This is their first race. Really, really good to see them running as high up as fourth, and it's always fantastic to see new cars in the championship. Oh, is that a damaged Ferrari in front of them as well?
Damaged Ferrari that is not on the same lap. If we take a look at that Ferrari real quick, I think that is the SR Technic Ferrari. That is the
no
AM
headlights
Ferrari.
on that. No, I can imagine they might get a meatball flag for having no headlights there. That car's in a very, very dangerous condition.
And it looks like there might be something to that, because I see a lot of red on our timing screen. Rui Felipe Pinheiro.
They're second in class.
Yeah, they've been second in class for a little bit. What happened here to Rui Felipe Pinheiro?
I think I'll see where this is going.
Oh, no.
Yes. Oh, hang on.
That's a 07.
Any contact? Yeah. Oh, no.
So that's
an aborted lane entry?
That is Bernardini.
I think
and that's where Horvath got turned.
Got caught up in it.
Yeah, so that's where everything got put together. That's on the final corner, too.
Yeah, I think the 201, that's 207 Racing. I think they've aborted a pit lane entry there, and it's just gone completely wrong for them, and they've ended up taking another car out of the race.
Yeah, 07 Racing already in a bad spot here. What were they trying to do? No, they weren't even trying to go to pit lane. They spun out on their own.
Oh, and almost collecting the GTP as well. That was one of the
Magic Arrow.
That was, yeah, it was. It was the one of the. Where are they? The Mass Devils car.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, you're right. It was the blue one. I saw that.
Was it both of them? Yeah, the second one came through just late in our picture there. Three cars sat stationary though on the exit of a very, very fast and blind corner. Surprised there wasn't a safety car thrown for that one. Or in real life, there probably would have been.
Yeah, probably. But for Pinheiro, second in class in GT3 AM, and he's just trying to hang on as much as he can. There's no headlights on that car either. Headlights have been blown out because of the contact damage.
Yeah, I don't like the look of that one at all. That makes you very uncomfortable. A little bit of side-by-side action in the back there. I think that might have been one of the GT3 Pro cars trying to get past one of the GTMs, as there was a Cadillac trying to slide through as well.
One of the cars that are in pit lane.
But speaking from experience, it's never fun being the faster class in that situation, because you've got two cars from different classes going side by side, trying to get past each other, and then you've got to try and pick your way through as well. It's always a very dangerous situation.
So overtake in pit lane for extended service.
Oh, after I was just singing their praises as well.
And it was no fault of their own. They were trying to navigate a bad situation there, and it ended up not being in their favor. At the front of the field, Balas Tarosi from Magico 55, holding on to the race lead by about 27 seconds over Mass Devils Red.
Wow.
A little bit further back, Nick's Esports in a little bit of a battle. This is Diego Cayon taking on Nick Baggerman. This is Nick's versus Future Racing Team Pro, two teams that have been pretty beleaguered by penalties and incidents in this race so far, going at it for the 7th spot, and Nick's Esports makes easy work of it.
I was going to say, is Nick damaged there? Because he didn't look very fast coming out of the Mercedes-Benz arena. So I'm wondering if they picked up a little bit of damage at some point, because they are dropping right off the back of Diego here.
Very possible. We'll see if there's any damage there on Baggerman's number 18.
Yeah, they're only 2 laps into their stint, so there's every chance that they've just got the pits on cold tires.
We'd have to see if we can get eyes on the back of that car. I'm not seeing any damage on the front end.
No, it looks relatively clean. The only reason I can think that that car might be slow is they might have still been getting their tires up to temperature. The next Esport car has been out of the pits for a couple of laps longer, so with a little bit more temperature in their tires, they have that little bit more pace.
Yes, there's a possibility that he's charging up the battery, charging up the hybrid system in those cars as well, because that would be as if Nick's Esports is pushing on that hybrid and the 18's not. that'd be a significant change in situation there. And we see Ryder Engineering has lost a lot of time, and that is a car well off on the side of the road.
That's the happen. That's up at the spit's gonna happen.
That's Patrick Silvazzi. What has happened to Ryder Engineering?
They were having a pretty decent race as well. Let's see what happened here then.
This is not going to be a pretty hit.
Oh, was the GT involved at all? I think Patrick has to get past that GT, catching the Acura in front of him. Oh no, he just goes... Is that a hardware failure?
That's a hardware failure.
That was a very big walk-up.
That's a hardware failure right there, because that car just goes... You see the car stop, slow down, and then stall. That's even more heartbreaking. And you see he's trying to get that car out of the way, but you see the damage on the front of that car.
Yeah.
That is bad to worse.
Fortunately, it's only a little bit of aero damage from what I can see on the 76 car there. So maybe a 20-second repair, get it out of there. But with the position where that car was towed from, it's going to be a good couple of minutes on the tow before they can even start on the damage repair.
We also have to think about if there's anything wrong with the equipment, like technically speaking, then that could be the biggest determining factor right now as to how quick that car can get back out. They are 10th right now in class.
I mean, if Patrick's had a hardware failure there, I think the best bet for the Ryder team is to pull him out of the car and put someone else in.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. Silvazzi was doing so well, and it's gone south in a hurry for Ryder Engineering.
You got to feel sorry for them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we see that about once a race where you've got a hardware failure that just takes out someone that at the worst possible time, and unfortunately it's happened to Ryder Engineering after they already had a very poor race at Watkins Glen and didn't get to show up at Interlagos.
Here's a tricky one for the lead car. You see in the number 7 car on the back of that GT there, it's always a dangerous spot to catch those cars. The speed difference between those two cars is absolutely insane through turn 1, because you're getting on the brakes in the GTPs at about 50 meters. Flicking the car in through there, you really don't want a GT in front of you. But there was a lead change. Where are we looking?
So the lead change is actually at the front here, because Magic Arrow is no longer leading this race.
Oh, have they stopped? Is that a pit stop?
I would have to believe so. They pit on lap 138. Yeah, they did make a pit stop. They are now 41 seconds away, so Mass Devil's Red and back to the front of the field.
I think this is just the pit cycle's beginning on us here, because it says Magic Arrow, was it 55?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they've just stopped. I'm expecting the number 7 in within the next couple of laps then. Maybe they're going for the overcut, but with the traffic they had, I don't think it's going to save them any time, Carmen.
That's the strategy calls so far have looked out that way. Mass Devil's Red have typically gone about a couple laps longer. Project Dynamic Green, it looks like have they gotten around? They have not gone around. How close are they to the 55? Because they also came in a couple laps ago. They came in on lap 134.
Yeah, they've gone for the undercut. Yeah, they went for the undercut on the Magic Arrow car. Gap's still looking the same between them and the car that they're chasing down. No, that's come down then.
That gap was 12 seconds a few
laps ago. Wow. Great call on the undercut from the 71 team there then. I think if they've done a driver change as well and got someone faster in the car. Yeah, they've got Casper's back in the car. This guy was so exciting to watch at the start of the race, Carmen. After he sliced through the other Mass Devil's car and made his way past the Ryder Engineering car, he was chunking away at the lead of the Magic Arrow 55 car.
Wesley Caspers is very impressive, and I'm expecting the way this race will probably finish. Caspers will probably hand it off to Stravato again in about a couple hours, and then Stravato will go through his second stanza, and then Caspers will finish the race. Is how I'm expecting that to go. That's how they did Watkins Glen.
Nice. If that's the case, that's going to make the end of the race really exciting. Because we've seen just how dynamic Casper's driving is. Very aggressive in the traffic and super quick in clean air. I think he's going to bring the gap down to that 55 quite easily. But
that's what
I'm not
going
to try and jinx it too much.
Because so Project Dynamic Green have two drivers in that car. Magic Arrow's got 3. This is the third of their drivers. This is Aaron Avener, who I believe pace-wise was the slowest of the group at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, look at all that traffic in front of him as well.
Yeah.
That's going to slow him down.
So he's got a lot of traffic here, and the gap is now less than 8 seconds between Magic Arrow and Project Dynamic Green. Mass Devil's Red is still yet to come down pit lane. Holding onto that lead as much as they can, because it's about to be a dogfight in the top 3. And really, SPD Emerald Racing's not far behind in this battle either, with Alberto Garcia Blasco.
The number 7 car has stayed out for another lap. I don't quite remember what lap they last came in on,
lap 112.
but they've got to be getting low on fuel. 112, yeah. So they've, oh god, no, they've still got a few more laps to go. I'm expecting them in another 4 laps or so at this rate.
Yeah, they've been going to purely to a fuel number at this point in time.
Yeah, I think we've been seeing up and down the field anywhere between 35 and 37 lap stints. But with those 15 minutes cut off the start of this particular stanza of the race, that will have changed up the strategies quite dramatically. You'd be surprised just how far these new cars can go on fuel. So constantly thinking about how any potential changes in the race, changes in pace, affect how you have to make the strategy, how your strategy decisions have to go. It can be tricky. It can be really tricky.
100% can be absolutely wild. They have another report of a drive-through penalty, this time for the 357. This is the Esser Tetnik.
Yeah, I think we know which one that is, don't we, Carmen?
This is, let me look at to see what the penalty report says. This is the contact with the 283. This is with the overtake car. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be that spin at the final corner, collecting almost 4 cars.
Well, and that's interesting because that started with the 07 racing car.
Oh, that's a bit of lappery around there. Bloody hell. It's a difficult move, that one, around the outside of that little hairpin. There's not so much grip on the outside of that corner because of how banked it is. You really want to be right on the inside there, using the camber. But with the insane amount of grip that these GTP cars have, you're just seeing that Cadillac swing right around the outside there. It was our race leader as well. So there you go. That's some fantastic driving from Aaron so far. It hasn't taken them long to warm up at all.
So that was actually a bit of a recovery because he went off track. The gap is now less than 4.
I did see a car up on the right. I didn't know it was our guy here.
Yeah, it's Avener. This is Avener right here, the 55.
Checked up to the loose moment. Oh, he's been pushed. The Ferrari's pushed him off the track. Again, that's just one of those things with multi-class racing. GT3 drivers need to be aware when there's a car coming up behind them like that. But it's as much on the GTP for, trying to avoid these collisions. But sometimes it's so hard when GT3 drivers are having their own race. They're not always looking in their mirrors.
Yeah, it's a bit of a give and take there, but Avener, the gap is now down significantly. 3.7 seconds is the gap. Again, this is
Carmen,
battle for second.
I said this race was going to get interesting towards the end of it, but I think it's going to get interesting this stint. I can imagine Avener's going to be a little bit shaken by what's happened there. Might take him a minute to get back into the rhythm, but that's going to give the number 71 Project Dynamic Green car just that little bit they need to try and start chunking that gap down and get on the tail of this Cadillac.
Yeah, right now Mass Devil's Red still staying out, expecting them to stay out for a little bit longer at the front of this field. Alvaro Garcia leading the way with the pole-sitting car in GTP. They last pit on lap 112. They're on lap 144 right now. Rolling through the stadium section, we expect a pit stop in the next couple laps for the Mass Devil's Red team.
Yeah, if they pitted on lap 112 last, expect them in around lap 147, so there's still a little while for them to go. Plenty of traffic in front of them, though, to slow them down.
The hairpin is Avener, with Wesley Caspers just behind. Gap is stabilizing here at 3.6 seconds in the GTP class.
This is my favorite. It's my absolute favorite thing about multi-class racing. It's so little about the absolute pace and performance of the car, and it's so much more about how you can take advantage of the traffic. Like we've seen earlier in this race, the prototypes using the GT3s as a pick to try and get past other cars, and it's always so exciting pinning another prototype behind a GT3, because they're either going to make the choice to just sit there and, you know, take that loss, or they're going to try and be brave and try and muscle you out the way to try and get past that GT3. It never ends well, but can sometimes be to their advantage, as we see the number 7 car pit in a couple laps earlier than I expected. Oh, never mind. No, they are still out. That was just the timing screen.
Yeah, it's the timing screen that's a little bit off. Once they come down pit lane, because again, they've got a 40-some-odd second gap to everyone else, so they've been falling out of our radar here a little bit. Avener and Caspers, they are close. That gap is now 2.2 seconds into the hairpin here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at what sort of traffic they've got in front of them here.
Next to none
really
right now.
Make this race exciting. Yeah, it could be a chance for Avener to pull away a little bit, but this is not a spot where I'd want to be behind a GT3. He's going to get held up a bunch here. Is he going to go down the inside? Oh my God, he is. And he's made it work as well.
That GT3, that BMW made it work a little bit. I think that's the AZR white motorsport car.
Yeah, they knew the assignment there. They well and truly understood that. Didn't make that too tricky for the car coming up behind them at all. But the gap still come down.
The gap come down significantly, 1.125.
Yeah, no, we're looking at the Project Dynamic car being about 0.7 of a second faster than the car in front of them at the moment. So we're going to see them in slipstream range this lap at this rate.
You know, it's a 47-second gap between second and third and the battle for the race lead. But again, Mass Devil's Red has to make a pit stop here.
Yeah, and if I'm in that number 7 car now, I'm watching this fight thinking, oh, boys, you better start going at it. I need some more time to make this pit strategy work, because you lose a good minute or so in the pit lane here. It's a really quick pit lane at the Hockenheimring. Like, you've got 80 Ks, but with the refuel rate of these cars, you are sat stationary for a good minute. Fortunately, it does mean that you've got time to change tires before the fuel's been done, so you're always coming out of the pits with the best rubber that you can on the car. But that absolute time loss just from being sat there is absolutely brutal. A little bit of traffic holding up the 71 car here. It's extended the gap to the 55 car in front just a bit this lap. But as I say, it's all push and pull with multi-class racing. Sometimes you're going to get the luck with the traffic, sometimes you're not, and this time round, the Project Dynamic car really hasn't had that luck. Gap still 45 seconds to the leader between the Magic Arrow car and the Mass Devil's Red car, which still isn't the gap they need, but it's getting bigger. It's getting bigger, Carmen.
The issue is that I don't think it's going to get big enough for them to stay in the race lead with how this is going to go right now. The thing I'm concerned about with the 7 car, though, is that they've got a significant overcut advantage fuel-wise. Like, their mileage number is a lot different than what it was for the 55 and the 71. So that's a very curious situation to be in, especially if it comes down to that where the finish of the race is within that margin. Then
it's worth keeping an eye on, because we don't quite know how these fuel strategies are going to work out at the moment. I'm not quite sure what the stint lengths are. I'll have a better idea of what the stint lengths are in another couple of stints, but it does look like the Mass Devil's car is quite significantly off strategy at the moment, because the Magic Arrow car has already been out on this stint for 8 laps, and the Mass Devil's car still hasn't pitted yet.
Yeah. I'm going to look at what the pit strategy looks like for some of these cars right now. Some of this is not going to be super accurate, but it looks like Garcia has pretty well been on a 38-lap stint.
Wow.
So
wow, that is excellent fuel mileage from that team. So that means they're still going to be out on track for another 3 laps here.
Yeah. They're going to be out for another 3 laps, because you look at some of the drivers here. So looking at Avener, Caspers, and Garcia, those are new drivers in those cars. So it's showing the driver stint lengths right there, which is why those blocks look so weird. But looking at Garcia, who's been in that car already.
Garcia is losing a bit of time to the cars behind. Last lap, 0.2 of a second slower than the car behind them, and they're going through traffic. I don't know what sort of traffic the number 7 car had last lap. It looks to have been relatively clear, but they're still losing time relative to these 2 cars, and they're in traffic.
Yeah, they're hustling, though. They're keeping each other honest right now. This is going to be a very difficult place, especially for the 71, who cannot get clear of some of this traffic. Got to send it in
No, he's
deep.
going to get held up significantly. Yeah, that much tighter line into the Mercedes-Benz arena here isn't going to help
And
them.
here comes pit stops. Here's
there
the 7.
They are.
And that's
that's a little bit earlier than I expected.
Well, I think it's one of those things they were kind of sitting and waiting. If they're losing time right now, there's no point in waiting it off even more. Because at that point, you're kind of digging your own hole there.
Yeah, I'm just watching on the track map now as these cars that we've been following for so long now come through the final sector. 7 cars still stationary. Carmen, I was saying about that fuel stop, it is extraordinarily long in these cars. You've got to refuel the whole 89 liters of fuel.
And you think this is the fastest the refueling rate has been on these cars. Even about the LMP1s and the LMP2s prior to the GTP class, the refuel rate was a lot slower, and you couldn't change tires at the same time either. So pit stops would take you about a minute and a half, 2 minutes sometimes, because you'd have to change one tire at a time. It's a brand new era in sports car racing.
And I'll tell you what, I do miss that. The insane strategies that we could come up with in those cars. Every other season or so, we'd see the 6 hours of Le Mans crop up, and it'd be a night race. So you'd typically end up doing 10 stints during a 6 hours of Le Mans. And because the track temperature was so low and the tire wear was so low, there were strategies that we've actually ran where you'd end up doing 5 stints on the tires. So each driver would be in the car for a whole 3 hours. Absolutely exhausting.
Getting word of 2 more drive-thrus coming through. The number 18 after making contact with the 299, and the 201 after making contact with a 357. So the 201, the 07 racing team, did get a penalty for their part in the accident, that 4-car chain reaction crash.
Yeah, the number 18 Future Racing, that is going to cost them. They are currently sat 5th overall, being chased down by the number 10 Mass Devils blue car, who haven't had a particularly good race so far. They did pretty decent in qualifying, but fell down quite quickly at the start of the race, especially after that restart. But with this Future Racing team penalty, maybe that's going to give the Mass Devils blue car an opportunity to get their car into the top 5.
Potential. A lot of potential right now. Battle for the race lead ongoing now.
That gap isn't changing.
Race. Not yet. Avener deviates from the line to get ahead of that GT3, entering the hairpin, turn 5.
I think they're both going to lose a roughly the same amount of time there. The 71 car is going to have to take a little bit more time to get on throttle because of the BMW in front of them, but with that tighter line off the corner from the number 55 car, I think that's probably going to about even out. Gap's still sat around that 1.2 seconds.
And think about this, Mass Devils Red, they were in the lead of this race. With that pit stop, they fell down to 4th. XPD Emerald Racing up to 3rd place now. So it's a 4-car fight right now strategically for the front of this race.
Yes, it is. The XPD Emerald car is on a very similar strategy to the number 71 as well, only pitting 1 lap earlier than them. So it's still a 14-second gap between them both. But looking at their pace here, they are going about half a second to a second faster per lap at the moment.
Yeah, last lap time for XPD Emerald Racing at 125.48 with Alberto Garcia Blasco behind the wheel. 126.47 and 126.67 for the leaders right now.
I don't see this lap being quicker for the 3rd place car at the moment. Getting stuck behind a couple of GTs to start their lap. And they've still got 4 or 5 more that they're going to come with this track. Yeah, wow, that's another match lap time. This team are really doing everything they need to now to try and stay in the fight. Yeah,
they are. And that battle at the front of the field has now gotten nose to tail.
This could be it. This could be the move. It's gone down the inside, taking away the inside line from Avener. Wow, what a move into the hairpin.
Couldn't get back to it. Avener couldn't go over under it.
What a fantastic move into the hairpin there. It's always going to be the best place that you can make a move. If you can take away that inside line and still make the corner, that position is going to be yours, Carmen.
And I almost thought for a second that Avener had done what we've seen so many cars had already done so far, and that was back off and then try to get back over under and really kind of late apex the corner. But he couldn't get the front end to bite. Yeah,
Caspers did really well to block off the apex there. It just didn't give Avener the chance to get back into it, and now that Avener's in the dirty air, he's just dropping tenths of a second per corner.
Yeah, big
Look at that, the
so
gap's
far.
already up to where it was at the start of this lap, but the other way around.
Yeah, 1.15, the gap now for Wesley Caspers across the line this time in the race lead.
Judging by what we've seen earlier in this race, Carmen, I'd expect the number 71 car to absolutely fly off into the distance now. I don't feel like Avener's going to have an answer for them. In fact, it could let the 55 car drop into the clutches of the XBD Emerald car, who's already closed the gap down to the car ahead by a good second or so.
It's very possible right now. Very, very, very possible. For those just now tuning in, welcome to the mid-afternoon or evening shift, depending on where you are around the world. It's the PEC 10 hours of Hockenheim here on ABN Esports 1. I'm Carmen, alongside me, sports car expert and sports car champion Taylor Mills.
Hello.
To bring you action here tonight. Again, for everyone tuning in from around the world, we appreciate you spending your Saturday with us here for part one of our doubleheader tonight. Watching an incredible battle here, looking right now at the leader in the GT3 AM class, now back to 5th overall in GT3, Virtual Insanity Racing, with, I believe, that is still Philip Spez behind the wheel of that car. Indeed it is.
Yeah, what a fantastic job these guys have done all race to maintain that lead and stay out in front, fighting, as I said earlier, for P4 overall in the GT3 class. Like, Virtual Insanity Racing, their pace has been absolute insanity so far, Carmen.
Absolutely, and obviously a lot of that work being done on the opening stanza by Lemmy Mishk and Nick Kirstens, who opened up the car at the start of the race. Philip Spez playing a little bit of just limitation, making sure that that car stays pointing in the right direction, keeping that car clean for when Kirstens and Mishk get back into that car. But still safely, and it's not like fourth and like in a mix. It's fourth and safe. They are they're 4 seconds away from AZR Motorsport, who are in third right now, and almost 10 seconds ahead of Really Slow Motion Racing, who are fourth in GT3 Pro. So they are they're right in the middle of it.
I can see it getting very, very tight towards the end of this race, Carmen, especially in GT3. How exciting it was to watch those folks going absolutely nose to tail for the first hour or so of this race. As to be expected in a multi-class race, obviously the GTPs coming through has spread them out a little bit, but I'd say it hasn't made the racing any less interesting.
Yeah, a lot of strategy calls right now in the middle of taking place as we approach the halfway point. You know, we're beyond the 4-hour mark technically now in this race. So we're at the end of the first half of this event. Again, we had a red flag period that really kind of set us back a little bit, and it set a lot of strategies back. You want to talk about strategies being a little bit altered and varied? Think about the stints and how different the driver stints have got to be, accounting for that hour of red flag time.
Yeah, because you're looking at anywhere between 45 and 50-minute stints in these GTP cars alone. So that extra 15 minutes could play nicely into the way that the strategy works out. But then you've got to look at the GT3 cars. You're looking at like a whole hour in the car on a tank of fuel. So that extra 50 minutes, to be fair, could be savable with the amount of stints they've had to do. But even then, you're looking at an extra 2 laps of stint to try and make that work, which is going to destroy your pace relative to the rest of the field. Oh, this looks dicey, Carmen.
Yeah, GT3s and GTEs in the stadium section.
Yeah, it just allowed the Magic Arrow car to get closed up on a little bit more as these guys are still fighting for position.
Yeah, that's 56 into 33. Magic Arrow's 56 car and the Nix Esports number 33 going at it here. They've got almost a lap clear on the 23, the Go Esports machine.
This is the battle for 7th unfolding in front of us. Now, these guys don't want to fight too hard because the 56 car has the number 10 Mass Devils blue car only 15 seconds up the road. Oh, is that a pit stop or is that damage?
That is a pit stop of some kind. Nick Baggerman in pit lane.
Yeah, it's going to be the Future Racing Team Pro car in from P5. So that's going to be... Oh, wait, this is their drive-through. This is their drive-through from earlier. Finally serving that. So let's watch that gap between these guys and the Mass Devil car behind. Where is that Mass Devils car?
Mass Devils car. The Mass Devils blue car is not in range.
Absolutely nowhere near them. Wow.
Mass Devils red.
Wow.
Francois Valier is in the stadium section now, so almost half a lap behind.
Wow, that's been some impressive pace out of that Future Racing Team car to pull out enough of a gap to be able to take that penalty and not lose any track position. We saw the same earlier with the Magic Arrow 55 car. And of course, that's come through to bite them a little bit now. But after they served their penalty, they still had a 30-second gap to the Project Dynamic car.
Yeah, that drive-through penalty. You talk about how quick that pit lane is on its own. 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour. One of the quicker pit lanes in Europe. Helps out significantly.
It just makes those penalties not worth very much. It's why you can never ever let your foot off the gas in an endurance race, because you've got to be able to account for all these little incidents happening. Like, obviously, it makes it a lot more difficult because you are pushing as hard as you can, and it's so mentally draining. And then when something happens, it takes you right out of your rhythm. And then even though you've got that margin, you've still got to do what you can to get back in the rhythm and try and build that gap up again.
Now looking at Bernardo Tano, driver for Enos Esports, just making their pit stop there, and that was a full service pit stop with some damage repair. Now sitting 10th overall in the GT3 Pro class.
Yeah, that wasn't a scheduled stop for these guys. Their last stint was only 19 laps long.
Yeah.
So that's going to have cost them in their strategy a little bit.
Trouble, Virtual Insanity Racing. There's a crash there between Philip Spez and Thomas Fisher.
What happened there? Was that for position?
I can't have been for position. It's not for position. They were 12 laps apart. But something happened to Philip Spez. See if we can figure this out real quick, because I'm not sure what happened to their side-by-side here. So we'll figure it out if there's an issue. This is going into the hairpin.
Left. Already slow from Philip Spez, and then you've got the BMW up his inside here. What's going on? BMW's gone a bit deep. Oh, they've had to check up and then been rear-ended a little bit by the Porsche behind them. I don't know if that's resulted in. I don't know if it's resulted in any damage for them, but it's certainly a strange situation there.
That looked a little bit worse when it pulled up, because it pulled up right as like if they crashed. It may have just been because they came to a complete stop in that hairpin.
Yeah, no. Ooh, wow, that's very wide from Spez there.
A little bit rattled there, 3 wide.
Whoa. Is that, yeah, one of the GTP cars going through.
Because then that was the 18.
It's one of those situations I was talking about earlier, Carmen. You get those cars checking up. One of the other GT3 has been a little bit opportunistic to try and get alongside and get through. And then you as the GTP, it's like, you look at that and it's like, damn, can I make that gap? And sometimes you've got to. Nick Baggerman already losing enough time from the penalty. Doesn't want to lose any more, so he's going to go for that one.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's trying to hold on to that 5th place finish at the moment. As things sit, he's got a pretty decent gap. 40 seconds between him and the 6th place number 10 car. Another car in Go Esports is in pit lane. This is Sergio Sanchez Cachaferro behind the wheels of the Go Esports car.
This might be a little bit early for them. They've only been out on track for 32 laps. So I'm wondering if maybe they're doing shorter stops, refueling a little bit less, or maybe they've had to come in a little bit early.
Driver change. Pablo Alfieri, the driver that started that car, back on track.
Yeah, Alfieri looking very quick at the start of this race. Let's see if he's going to be able to recover any positions for this Go Esports car. They do have the Nix car in front of him, and the stop and go Acura is going to fly past him as well. So he's got some work to do here, Carmen.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of work right